A barren hilltop under moonlight. Sporadic gunfire echoing through the night mixed with a shriek of wind. The SEAL team was in desperate condition. Their SOS signals, transmitting continuously, but receiving only absolute silence. A low, calm female voice cut through the radio. "I've received your coordinates. Hold your position." Someone in the group whispered. "Is that her?" The silence stretched, like a held breath. Have you ever witnessed someone turn darkness into the only shield between life and death? From which city in the world are you watching this video today? If you enjoy stories about hidden strength and unrecognized heroes, please consider subscribing to Quiet Tales Studio for more. Team Echo 7 had been operating in these remote Rocky Mountain valleys for 72 hours. What should have been a routine extraction had become a nightmare when their support helicopter developed critical engine failure 3 clicks from the landing zone. Captain Cole Maddox crouched behind a weathered boulder, studying the terrain through his night vision goggles. The landscape was unforgiving. Jagged rocks, sparse vegetation, and sight lines that favored anyone holding the high ground. His team of 4 SEALs was pinned down in a depression that offered minimal cover from the elevated positions surrounding them. Contact front. Riley Knox's voice crackled through their comms as muzzle flashes erupted from the ridgeline above. The enemy had found them. Heavy fog rolled through the valley like a living thing, reducing visibility to mere meters. The weather was their enemy now. Thick mist, bone-chilling cold, and a darkness so complete it seemed to swallow their infrared strobes. Maddox's mind raced through contingencies. No air support, no quick reaction force. Their exfiltration route was compromised, and hostile forces were converging from multiple directions. In 16 years of special operations, he'd been in tight spots before, but this felt different. Final. "Anyone remember that story from Bragg?" whispered Mason Hale, pressing himself against the rocks as bullets snapped overhead. "About the Ice Queen sniper who vanished after that classified op?" "Focus on the present, Hale," Maddox snapped, but privately, he knew what Mason was thinking. Every operator had heard whispers about her. The female sniper who'd achieved impossible shots, who'd saved entire units from certain death, then disappeared from military records like she'd never existed. Most dismissed it as barracks legend, enhanced stories passed between operators who needed to believe in guardian angels. But some swore they'd served with her. Swore she was real. Connor Briggs pressed his face to his rifle scope, scanning for targets. Movement on the eastern slope. "They're flanking us." The tactical situation was deteriorating rapidly. Maddox counted at least 8 confirmed enemy positions, with more muzzle flashes appearing every few minutes. His team was outnumbered, outgunned, and running low on ammunition. For years, certain elements within special operations had questioned women in combat roles, whispered doubts about physical capability, emotional stability under extreme stress, whether female operators could truly handle the brutality of close-quarters combat. Maddox had never bought into that prejudice. He'd served with women who were harder than nails, more precise than computers, and braver than any man he'd known. But in moments like this, when death pressed close and options ran thin, even the most progressive minds could waver. The radio crackled with static, then silence. Maddox keyed his mic. Any station, this is Echo 7 Alpha, requesting immediate assistance. Grid coordinates 39.7392 north, 105.8178 west. We are taking heavy fire and require immediate extraction or fire support. Nothing. He tried again, switching frequencies. Broken arrow. Echo 7 Alpha is compromised. Repeat, Echo 7 Alpha is compromised. The silence that answered was deafening. Hale slumped against the rock beside him. "Sir, maybe we should consider." "We don't consider anything except completing the mission." Maddox cut him off, though privately he wondered if they'd already failed. The fog seemed to press closer, carrying with it the acrid smell of gunpowder and the metallic taste of fear. Somewhere in the darkness beyond their perimeter, enemy fighters were coordinating their final assault. Maddox closed his eyes for a moment, running through prayers he'd learned as a child in Texas. When he opened them, the darkness seemed absolute. That's when the voice came. Low, steady, completely calm, despite the chaos around them. A female voice that cut through radio static like a blade through silk, and somehow carried the promise of salvation wrapped in ice-cold precision. "Echo 7 Alpha, this is Ice Angel. I have your position, hold fast." The four SEALs froze, weapons still trained outward, but hope flickering for the first time in hours. Was it possible? Could the legend be real? The voice continued with surgical precision, each word delivered with the confidence of someone who had never missed a shot that mattered. Echo 7 Alpha, you have hostiles at bearing 045, range 400 meters, elevated position behind the split boulder. Secondary group at bearing 315, using the dead tree for cover. Maddox felt his tactical awareness sharpen. Whoever this was could see things his team couldn't, even with night vision. The level of detail was impossible unless… "Copy, Ice Angel," he responded carefully. "What's your position?" "Northeast ridge, approximately 800 meters from your location. I have thermal imaging and clear sightlines to your perimeter." 800 meters. Maddox did the math in his head. That was beyond the effective range of most sniper systems, especially in these weather conditions. The fog alone should have made precision shooting nearly impossible. Knox pressed her radio. "Ice Angel, how do we know you're friendly?" A pause then. "Because if I weren't, you'd already be dead." The blunt honesty was strangely reassuring. "Echo 7 Alpha," the voice continued, and there was something almost musical about it, like winter wind through mountain peaks. "I need you to move in stages. Knox, you're going to bound northeast 20 meters to the cluster of rocks shaped like a horseshoe. Maddox, you'll provide covering fire. On my mark." Maddox hesitated. Taking tactical guidance from an unknown operator violated every protocol he'd been taught. But protocols hadn't kept them alive so far. "Hale, what's your gut?" he whispered. Hale was studying the terrain through his scope. "Sir, those positions," she called out. "I can see the muzzle flashes now. She's right on target." The radio crackled again. "Movement on the western slope. They're attempting to flank your position. You have approximately 4 minutes before they achieve crossfire." 4 minutes. Maddox made his decision. "Ice Angel, we're moving on your command." "Stand by." The silence stretched for 30 seconds. Maddox could hear his own heartbeat, the shallow breathing of his team, the distant sound of boots on rocky ground as enemy fighters maneuvered in the darkness. Then the first shot rang out. A sharp crack echoed across the valley, followed immediately by shouting from the western slope. One of the flanking team's muzzle flashes went dark. "Knox, move now!" the voice commanded with ice-cold authority. Knox sprinted across the open ground, diving behind the horseshoe rocks just as automatic fire erupted from the ridgeline. Maddox and Hale laid down suppressing fire, their tracers cutting red lines through the fog. "Excellent execution," came the calm voice. "Next bound, Hale to the fallen log 15 meters south of Knox's position." Another shot rang out, this one from a completely different angle. A second enemy position went silent. "How the hell is she moving that fast?" Hale muttered, but he was already preparing to move. Maddox was beginning to understand the tactical genius at work. Their mysterious overwatch wasn't just providing sniper support. She was orchestrating a complex ballet of movement and fire, using terrain features invisible to his team, and shooting from positions that should have been impossible to achieve. "Hale, move!" The sequence repeated: sprint, dive, cover, suppress. Each bound brought them closer to better defensive positions, while their guardian angel picked off enemy fighters with surgical precision. By the third movement, Maddox could see the pattern. She was creating corridors of safety, eliminating specific threats that would have cut down his team during movement. Every shot was calculated not just for immediate effect, but for its impact on enemy morale and positioning. "Sir," Knox's voice carried genuine awe. "Whoever this is, she's operating at a level I've never seen." Maddox had to agree. In 16 years of special operations, he'd worked with some of the finest snipers in the world. This was different. This was artistry, written in lead and precision. "Final movement," came the voice, and Maddox could swear he heard the faintest trace of a southern accent beneath the professional calm. "All units bound to the stone wall 200 meters northeast. I'll provide continuous overwatch." "Copy that, Ice Angel." Maddox paused. "And thank you. Save the gratitude until you're home safe." As they prepared for the final movement, Maddox couldn't shake the feeling that he was witnessing something historic. Stories would be told about this night, passed down through generations of operators, the night an Ice Angel saved Echo 7. The coordinated movement was flawless. Maddox's team bounded by pairs, while their invisible protector eliminated threats with mechanical efficiency. Each shot seemed to come from a different position, creating the illusion of multiple snipers working in coordination. By the time they reached the stone wall, the enemy fire had ceased entirely. Echo 7 Alpha, this is Ice Angel, the voice said as they established security in their new position. You have clear egress routes to the north and east. Hostile forces are withdrawing to regroup. Your extraction window is approximately 45 minutes. Maddox looked at his team. They were battered, exhausted, but alive. Ice Angel, we owe you our lives. You owe me nothing, just get home to your families. There was something in the voice now, a weight that spoke of sacrifice and loss. Maddox realized their mysterious guardian had her own ghost to carry. Will we see you at extraction? The radio was silent for a long moment. Ice Angels don't usually attend parties, ECH-07. And just like that, Maddox knew they were alone again, but this time, they were alone with hope instead of despair. From her concealed position on the northeast ridge, Madison Ice Carter adjusted her scope and studied the tactical situation through thermal imaging. The SEAL team had reached relative safety, but she could see heat signatures regrouping in the distance. The enemy wasn't finished. They were adapting, bringing in reinforcements, planning a coordinated assault that would overwhelm even the stone wall position. She counted 18 distinct signatures moving through the fog. Professional fighters, disciplined enough to maintain formation despite losing 6 men to her rifle. These weren't random insurgents. This was a coordinated military operation. The custom M2010 enhanced sniper rifle felt like an extension of her own body, hand-fitted with modifications that existed in no official manual. The weapon that had never failed her, even when everything else did. Through her earpiece, she monitored Echo 7's communications. They were setting up defensive positions, checking ammunition, preparing for what they assumed would be a standard holding action until extraction arrived. They had no idea what was coming. Madison keyed her radio one final time. Echo 7 Alpha, you have approximately 30 hostiles converging on your position from 3 directions. This is gonna get intense. Maddox's voice came back tight with controlled tension. Copy, Ice Angel. Can you provide continued support? That's the plan. What she didn't tell them was that this would require shooting at the absolute limits of human capability, in fog, in darkness, against moving targets who now knew they were dealing with a sniper and would take appropriate countermeasures. The first shot had to be perfect. Target 1, enemy sniper on the western ridge, approximately 100 meters distant. He was good, using natural camouflage, moving between shots, making himself difficult to acquire. But thermal imaging revealed the heat signature of his rifle barrel, and Madison had been making impossible shots since before he'd learned to hold a weapon. She controlled her breathing, feeling her heart rate slow to tactical rhythm, wind speed 12 miles per hour gusting to 15, temperature 28 degrees Fahrenheit, barometric pressure falling with the advancing weather front. The mathematics were complex, but her body performed them instinctively. Elevation adjustment, windage compensation, lead time for a target moving at approximately 3 miles per hour lateral to her position. The M2010 spoke once. Through her scope, she watched the enemy sniper's heat signature collapse behind his cover. 1 shot, 1 kill, at a range that most marksmen would consider fantasy. But she was just getting started. Target 2, machine gun team establishing a support position on the southern slope. The weapon could cut Echo 7 to pieces if it achieved a firing position. Range 1, 894 meters. The gunner was partially concealed behind rocks, presenting only brief windows of opportunity as he maneuvered the weapon into position. Madison waited. Patience was a sniper's greatest weapon. More valuable than any equipment or training. She tracked the heat signature, noting the rhythm of movement, predicting the exact moment when anatomy would align with her crosshairs. When the gunner emerged to adjust his tripod, she was ready. The second shot eliminated the machine gun threat before it could fire a single round. Now the enemy knew they were dealing with a precision marksman of extraordinary capability. Panic began to spread through their ranks. She could see it in their movement patterns, the way thermal signatures clustered together, seeking mutual support instead of maintaining tactical spacing. Target 3, enemy commander, identifiable by his position and the way other signatures oriented toward him. Leadership elimination would disrupt their coordination, turn organized assault into chaotic retreat. This shot required threading between two boulders with less than 18 inches of clearance, accounting for bullet drop at 287 meters, adjusting for a crosswind that had shifted since her last shot. The M2010's third bullet found its mark with mechanical precision. The effect was immediate and devastating. Enemy heat signatures began moving erratically, their formation dissolving as subordinate leaders tried to maintain unit cohesion without clear command structure. But Madison wasn't finished. Target 4, a spotter with night vision equipment, who was attempting to locate her position. If he succeeded, she'd become the hunted instead of the hunter. Range 1, 967 meters. The target was moving unpredictably, scanning with binoculars, making himself a difficult target. She fired during his moment of stillness, when target acquisition demanded absolute focus. Target 5, demolition specialist, carrying what appeared to be an explosive device. His elimination prevented potential destruction of Echo 7's defensive position. Target 6, communication specialist with a radio pack. Cutting enemy communications would prevent coordination with any additional forces. Each shot required different calculations, different adjustments, different tactical considerations. But the M2010 performed flawlessly, and Madison's muscle memory executed shots that belonged in the realm of legend. By the time she'd eliminated 10 enemy combatants, the remaining forces were in full retreat. They fled into the darkness, abandoning equipment and wounded, unwilling to face an enemy they couldn't see or locate. Through her thermal scope, Madison watched Echo 7's heat signatures relax slightly as hostile fire ceased. They'd survived. They'd complete their mission and return home to families who would never know how close death had come. She began breaking down her shooting position, preparing for extraction to her own vehicle. The mission was complete, but she felt no satisfaction. Only the familiar emptiness that came after the adrenaline faded and reality returned. 10 confirmed kills, 4 lives saved. Another night's work in a war that never truly ended. Echo 7 Alpha, she transmitted one final time. You have clear egress to extraction, stay safe. Maddox's voice carried profound gratitude. Ice Angel, we don't know who you are, but... She switched off the radio before he could finish. Some conversations were better left incomplete. Some debts were better left unacknowledged. In the distance, she could see the lights of an approaching helicopter, Echo 7's ride home. Madison Carter gathered her equipment and melted back into the darkness from which she'd emerged, an Ice Angel returning to the shadows where legends lived. Dawn painted the mountains in shades of gold and crimson as the extraction helicopter settled onto a makeshift landing zone. Echo 7 had maintained security through the remaining hours of darkness, but no further enemy contact materialized. Their mysterious guardian had eliminated the threat so thoroughly that even the local wildlife had returned to the valley. Captain Maddox supervised the loading of equipment while his team prepared for departure. Each man carried the weight of survival, the knowledge that they'd witnessed something extraordinary in the darkness. Sir, Knox approached with something in her palm. Found this about 50 meters from our position. Maddox examined the object, a small silver and black patch depicting a coiled viper with ice blue wings. No unit designation, no official markings, but every special operations veteran would recognize its significance. This was the unofficial insignia of Frost Division. Operators who existed outside normal command structures, soldiers whose missions were too classified for standard record-keeping. She was here, Hale said quietly, right here with us. Maddox turned the patch over in his hands. The craftsmanship was exceptional, clearly custom-made. More importantly, it was worn, edges softened by years of use, colors slightly faded from exposure to harsh environments. This wasn't a replica or tribute piece. This was authentic. Load up! The helicopter crew chief shouted over rotor noise. Weather's moving in fast! As Echo 7 climbed aboard the aircraft, Maddox took one last look at the terrain where they'd fought for their lives. The rocks and ridgelines appeared innocent in daylight, betraying no hint of the violence that had erupted hours earlier. But his thermal imaging had recorded everything. 10 distinct heat signatures eliminated by precision fire from extreme range in weather conditions that should have made such shooting impossible. The official after-action report would struggle to explain how 4 SEALs had survived contact with a numerically superior force. Think we'll ever see her again? Knox asked as the helicopter lifted off. Maddox studied the patch one more time before securing it in his tactical vest. Ice Angels don't usually make repeat appearances, he replied, but they leave traces, evidence that they were there when it mattered. The flight back to base passed in contemplative silence. Each team member processed the night's events differently, but all understood they'd been privileged to witness something beyond normal human capability. Back at Fort Carson, Maddox filed his preliminary report with deliberate vagueness. Unknown friendly forces provided precision fire support during contact with hostile elements. Technical truth without compromising operational security or revealing information that might endanger their mysterious savior. The intelligence officer who debriefed them raised eyebrows at the sparse details, but didn't press for elaboration. Some stories were better left untold, especially when they involved operators who officially didn't exist. Later that evening, Maddox found himself alone in the team's quarters, staring at the ice-winged Viper patch under lamplight. He'd done his research, contacted old friends, made discreet inquiries, traced rumors through the special operations community. The name Madison Carter appeared in whispered conversations but never in official records. A female sniper who'd achieved legendary status before vanishing completely from military databases. Some claimed she'd died in Afghanistan. Others insisted she'd been discharged under classified circumstances. A few swore they'd served with her, describing shooting skills that bordered on supernatural and a tactical mind that operated several steps ahead of any battlefield situation. Maddox believed them now. He opened his secure laptop and composed a message to an email address that technically didn't exist, routed through servers that officially weren't operational. To the Ice Angel on grid 39.7392, 105.8178. 4 men went home to their families because of your skill and courage. We know we can never repay that debt, but we want you to know it won't be forgotten. If you're still out there, still watching over soldiers who need guardian angels, we hope you find the peace you've earned. Semper Fi, Echo 7 Alpha. He hit send, knowing the message would likely disappear into the digital void, routed through classified networks that protected sources and methods. But sometimes the void wrote back. 3 days later, Maddox found a response in his secure inbox. No routing information, no sender identification, just 2 words: stay frosty. The ice-winged Viper patch remained on his gear for the rest of his deployment, a reminder that even in war's darkest moments, guardian angels still walked among the shadows. 6 months after the mountain rescue, ECH-07 was back stateside, processing through post-deployment decompression at Fort Carson. The team had completed 19 more missions without incident, their confidence bolstered by the knowledge that somewhere in the darkness, professionals like their mysterious guardian still operated. Maddox sat in the unit's administrative office, reviewing after-action reports and preparing final mission summaries. The mountain operation had been officially classified as, quote, successful contact with unknown friendly forces, a bureaucratic phrase that captured nothing of the night's intensity or the legend they'd encountered. Sir, Knox knocked on the doorframe. Got a minute? Maddox looked up to find his entire team assembled behind her, their expressions carrying a mixture of excitement and disbelief. What's the situation? Hale stepped forward, holding a tablet displaying a news article. Sir, you need to see this. The headline read, Mysterious Donation Funds New Veterans Treatment Center. Below it, a photo showed the groundbreaking ceremony for a state-of-the-art facility designed to treat PTSD and traumatic brain injuries in special operations veterans. Maddox scanned the article. The donation had come from an anonymous foundation, routed through multiple legal entities to protect the donor's identity. The amount was substantial, enough to fund construction, equipment, and operation for the first 5 years. Look at the address. Knox pointed to a detail buried in the article's 3rd paragraph. The treatment center was being built on land purchased from a private owner in Montana. The previous owner was listed only as MC, private citizen. Maddox felt recognition hit like a physical blow. She's funding this, Knox said. Gets better. Hale advanced to another tab on the browser. We did some digging. That foundation has been quietly donating to veteran causes for 3 years. Prosthetics research, family support programs, housing assistance for wounded warriors. The scope was staggering, millions of dollars directed toward causes that supported soldiers returning from combat zones, all channeled through legal structures designed to maintain complete anonymity. How does an Ice Angel finance an operation like this? Maddox wondered aloud. Knox had found another article. Private military contractor achieves record success rate. The piece described a consulting firm that provided specialized security services for high-risk operations worldwide. No company name, no personnel details, just statistical data showing unprecedented mission success rates in hostile environments. Protecting corporate executives, securing extraction routes for humanitarian workers, providing overwatch for diplomatic missions, Hale read from the screen. Private sector pays serious money for this level of expertise. Maddox began to understand. Their guardian angel hadn't disappeared after leaving military service. She'd evolved, found a way to continue serving, while building the resources to support brothers and sisters who'd carried similar burdens. There's more, Knox said quietly, pulling up a final document. Memorial Fund for the 3 soldiers killed in Afghanistan 2019, Operation Frozen Thunder. The fund provided educational scholarships for children of fallen special operations personnel, established and funded by the same anonymous foundation, administered through the same legal networks that protected the donor's identity. Maddox stared at the screen, pieces clicking into place. The operation that had cost Madison Carter her military career had also taken 3 lives. Rather than walking away entirely, she'd found a way to honor their sacrifice while continuing to protect others. "Sir," Hale said carefully, "there's one more thing." He produced the ice-winged viper patch Maddox had found in the mountains, now framed and mounted on a small stand. Beside it was a handwritten note on simple paper. For Echo 7 Alpha, heroism isn't about recognition or medals, it's about standing in the gap when others can't. Doing what must be done because it's right, not because anyone will know. You exemplified that spirit in the mountains. Thank you for reminding me why the mission matters. Ice. Maddox read the note twice, understanding that this was likely the closest they'd ever come to direct contact with their mysterious guardian. "Think she's still out there?" Knox asked. "Somewhere?" "Probably saving lives right now," Maddox replied, studying the ice-winged viper patch. The team stood in comfortable silence, processing the revelation that their guardian angel had never stopped being a guardian. She'd simply found new ways to serve, new methods to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. Later that evening, Maddox composed one final message to the digital void. Message received and understood. Echo 7 will continue the mission. Thank you for showing us what service really means. He never received a reply, but somehow he knew the message had found its target. In the darkness between worlds, legends continued their work. Do you believe one person can change the outcome of an entire night through calm determination and skill? Share this story and tell me. Have you ever met a Madison Carter in real life? This story was brought to you by Quiet Tales Studio. Have you ever encountered someone who seemed ordinary, only to discover they held extraordinary power? Share your story in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more tales of hidden strength and silent heroes. Until next time, remember, the most powerful guardians are often the ones hiding in plain sight.